Hey guys, welcome to your COVID-19 workout. I'm Richard Wolff, the president of MEDFITNESS. We are a strength training studio in St. Charles, and tonight we're talking about how to survive the COVID-19 pandemic. My main message tonight is that the average adult just isn't prepared to survive the virus or the pandemic, despite the Centers for Disease Control's recommendations, which tell us to wash our hands, wear masks, and social distance. Those are relevant. I'm not saying we shouldn't do those. We do need to be practicing those prevention guidelines, but those alone don't prevent us and protect us from the virus itself. So we're going to break this down into two basic action steps. When you look about getting through a pandemic like this, it really comes down to two basic steps. Number one relates to that first thing I just said about those Centers for Disease Control recommendations. We need to minimize and prevent the transmission of the virus from one person to another. And so that's where washing your hands, wearing a mask, social distancing, that's where those practices do make a difference. And we have very strong evidence supporting that, despite the notion in our culture that those things really don't matter. There is strong science to back this up. So that's the first step. If you want to get through and survive this pandemic, we do need to embrace those practices. The second one is about surviving an infection. We know not everyone becomes infected when exposed to the virus, but many people do. And so action step number two is really preventing severe infections. Now, when we look at people who contract the COVID virus and transmit it to them, those who suffer the most are people that have what's called severe infections. Those are the people who have serious organ system complications because of the infection, and in some cases don't survive the infection. So our goal here is to break down that, and we know that the people who do have severe infections are typically living with comorbidities. What is a comorbidity? It's the presence of two chronic diseases or conditions at the same time. Good example would be someone who is a diabetic, but who also has heart disease. So what's our next step? Knowing that we do need to practice these steps the CDC has issued to prevent transmission, that is relevant, we have to do that. But then how do we prepare our body to minimize the risk that the infection presents if in fact we do become infected along the way? So that's going to involve what we would refer to as three survival tactics. I want to break down those survival tactics for you. There's number one is to learn about the strength training advantage. This is something that we do at MEDFITNESS quite frequently, and we would call it teaching you about the MEDFITNESS advantage. The strength training advantage, learning about the strength training advantage. Why am I talking about this? Because there is overwhelming evidence demonstrating that strength training can both prevent and reverse chronic diseases. Let me repeat that, because too many people overlook this and don't realize how vital this is. There's enormous amount of evidence showing that strength training, working out, doing what you do here at MEDFITNESS twice a week, can both prevent chronic disease, and in some cases it can reverse chronic disease. Why is this important? Because of what I just said. The people who are most likely to suffer the greatest with a COVID-19 infection are the people who are living with chronic diseases. Heart disease is a good example. Diabetes is a good example. Those folks are at high risk for serious complications, long periods of hospitalization, and potential mortality as a result of the infection. So first and foremost, when we think about strength training, we need to start shifting how we think about it. Historically, we've always thought about the effect it has on our appearance, which is of course fine, and strength training can change the way your body looks, and a lot of people strength train for that reason. I'm not saying you shouldn't strength train to improve your appearance, but my message here today is that we are facing the largest pandemic this nation has seen in 100 years, and we will not get through this successfully until we learn to embrace the fact that our health habits, which strength training is a health habit, our health habits predict whether or not we have comorbidities, and whether or not we have comorbidities predicts how harmful the COVID virus is to us. So if you're healthy and your body is disease resistant and you don't have chronic illnesses, you have an exponentially higher probability of recovering from the COVID-19 virus, which should be good news to everyone out there. In fact, we have never had as powerful of a reason why we should be strength training than right now at this very moment in the United States. So tactic number one, survival tactic number one, is you have to understand and embrace the strength training advantage, which means this behavior can prevent chronic illness. It can reverse chronic illness. Stop focusing on big biceps. I write about that in this month's article, Muscle Miracles. Again, it's okay to have big biceps, but stop obsessing over big biceps. Think about the dozens of health benefits strength training has. That is the single most important reason why you should be living the strength training lifestyle. So survival tactic number one, embrace, learn about, and live the strength training advantage because of the disease preventing benefits that it has for you. Number two, we need to apply the CDC safety pillars and precautions into our strength workouts. So let me give you some really good examples. This is how we're doing it at MedFitness, and certainly there are other places around the country that do this. But what are we doing? Number one, we made the shift to small group training to minimize contact exposure. What does that mean? It means that when you're in the studio, you're only going to see one or two other people in the studio at the same time. So this is minimizing contact exposure, minimizing the risk of virus transmission from person to person, which is very different than how we operated prior to the pandemic. For those of you who've been with us, you know that we had an on-demand approach to our training. You came in when you wanted, worked out when you wanted, which was great, but now we need to minimize contact exposure. So our small group training and early morning training does that. 1 to 2 clients at a time in the studio. You have to have an appointment. It's a structured, controlled, private studio where you're not running into 5, 10, 15 other people because you happen to be working out. So that's number one, we're minimizing contact exposure. Number two is, of course, we're screening people. We're asking them questions and screening them before we let them work out. So another layer of protection, applying those CDC guidelines. Number three is the trainers are, of course, wearing masks. That's to protect you so that you can be safe when you're working out, and it's out of respect for your safety that we do that. But all trainers are now wearing masks when they're training clients. We're also washing hands before and after the workout. Again, reducing the risk of virus transmission. We're also cleaning every piece of strength training equipment at the end of every workout. So every time someone new is entering the studio, all those contact points on 8 different machines, or actually 16 different machines, have been cleaned so that they're ready and the machines are fresh and ready to go. And then lastly, we are treating our machines with medical grade antiviral solutions that is sprayed onto the contact points. That dries on the machine and stays on the machine, is reapplied on a regular schedule. So we have 6 steps that we're taking here to implement those CDC guidelines, which is to minimize the risk of virus transmission from person to person when you are in close quarters. So that's action step number 2. Apply the safety pillars to your workout. The good news here is that we're doing that for you. All you have to do is walk in the door and take the coaching from your trainer the same way you always have. We're keeping everything clean. We've made other small adjustments behind the scenes to keep the studio sanitary and consistently clean, but ultimately it allows you to come into a safe environment, engage in a productive, disease-preventing, health-promoting workout without worrying about any meaningful risk for virus transmission. So that's action step number 2, applying the safety pillars to each and every workout on a daily basis. And then action step number 3 is what we would call enforcing the workout essentials. I just told you 5 minutes ago that strength training can prevent chronic illness. In some cases, it can reverse chronic illnesses. But what kind of a workout do I need to do in order to get those benefits from a health standpoint? Well, there's a couple things you need to do. And number 1 is the workouts need to be brief and intense. The biggest mistake most adults make is they think they need to strength train 5 days a week, an hour at a time, and in most cases this leads them to absolutely nowhere. So when we look at what we're doing here at MedFitness, these are 25-minute workouts. You're in and out in less than 25 minutes, training no more than twice a week. So when we look at the workout itself, not only does that allow you to work hard and push yourself, which is necessary, but it gives your muscular system time to adapt and go through that process called overcompensation, which is where all of the muscle growth happens, all the physiological change happened, and without that rest phase, you're essentially entering into a period of overtraining or a zone of overtraining. So we're keeping the workouts brief, we're keeping them infrequent. This allows you to work hard, get the adaptation that you're after. That's workout essential number 1. And of course, you know your trainer keeps you incredibly strict on those essentials. Number 2 is making sure the workouts are intense. So again, everyone who trains at MedFitness knows this. Your coach, your trainer is here to push you and stretch you to make sure that you're complying with your workout skills and to make sure that you're using some of our advanced training techniques that provide a better stimulus to the target muscles. We've been doing more of those recently, and anyone who's watching tonight probably knows that, and you've felt those. Why is that important? Because the intensity, how hard you work in your workout, is directly related to the health benefits you get from that workout. In very simple terms here, as the intensity goes up, the health benefits go up at the same time. So all the more reason to have a coach pushing and stretching you here, knowing that as you work harder, it means you get greater health benefits. This is not a scenario where you don't benefit by the sweat equity you put into it. That last couple of hard reps you just did on the compound row pays gargantuan dividends because that intensity creates a higher stimulus, and we're going to ultimately get a higher response, which means you are healthier than the person that didn't work as hard as you did, or you're getting more health benefits than the person who didn't work as hard as you did. So that's number 2 on the workout essentials. Keeping the workout intense. The coach, your trainer, is right there guiding you, coaching you, supporting you, reinforcing you on every single exercise every time you're in the studio. And then lastly, the 3rd workout essential is your post-workout protein. We know that the strength workout increases protein sensitivity. That just means that your body is better able to absorb protein and utilize protein several hours after the strength workout. So the strength workout, remember, it is a stress to your body. When we train hard and we stimulate your muscular system, it's looking for protein to begin that rebuilding process. Now, where does this fit into the big picture? That's truly where the health benefits show up. I said that intense workouts provide greater health benefits, but the health benefits occur during the recovery phase. Nothing happens in the workout. You're just stimulating your muscles, which is the first step. But they adapt they grow, they compensate, they become stronger, they become healthier during those rest days. So this is why adequate rest between workouts as well as post-workout protein is important to drive that process. Remember, we're going through a pandemic, guys. There is a truckload of stress that people are dealing with on multiple levels, both at home and with their work. That stress affects recovery. So this is not a time to dismiss your post-workout nutrition. It's a time to take advantage of that protein sensitivity window and say, hey, I'm going to get 20 grams or more of high quality protein within the next 1 to 2 hours as a way of getting more out of my strength workout. You just worked really hard for 25 minutes. Why not get a better benefit by getting that post-workout protein to enhance the recovery process? So let's summarize really quickly. We said that we do need to practice the CDC guidelines. They are relevant. We're doing that here at MedFitness. We're going to keep doing it to keep you safe. But we also said we need to embrace the truth that it's people who have comorbidities that enter into that severe infection zone. Those are the people who go through a tremendous amount of suffering. We can reduce the risk and minimize the odds of being in that severe infection boat by keeping our bodies healthy and disease resistant. And yes, there is a growing mountain of scientific evidence supporting the fact that strength training can both prevent and reverse chronic disease. I wrote about that in Muscle Miracles. I think I mentioned that already. But the study that was published in the American Journal of Lifestyle Medicine looked at 147 studies and basically summarized it by saying strength training benefits everything from your brain to your bones and everything in between. So we need to really shift our thinking in recognizing that the true promise of strength training isn't about big biceps. The true promise of strength training is about saving your life by helping you to avoid the biggest pandemic this nation has seen in the last 100 years. On that note, I'm going to thank you for watching tonight. I'm going to refer you to our Muscle Miracles article. You can get this at our Learning Center at our website. You can also see our protein guide at our Learning Center on our website. That's at medfitnessprogram.com/blog. Thank you for watching tonight. I look forward to seeing you next time.